Hello, let me give you introduction to Java. So here is an outline. We have what is Java, language categories, the origins of Java, and Java's ancestors. We're going to talk about Java's development kit, bytecode, and Java C and Java, and give you an example of first Java program and the integrated development environment. So what is Java? Java is basically an interpreted programming language. What do I mean by Java being an interpreted programming language? To explain that, we need to briefly discuss about languages categories. The categories can be divided into 5. There's assembly language, compiled programming languages, interpreted programming languages, query languages, markup languages. To give you a brief overview of assembly language, it basically represents machine code in human readable text. So you can see that in computer, everything is represented as 1 or 0. And it's really difficult for humans to process that. So we have assembler, which allows us to represent this long chains of 1 and 0s into human readable text and convert that human readable text to machine code. And then this machine code is the instructions converted to strings of 1s and 0s for the CPU to process. So there are some examples of assembly languages. ARM x86, RISC-V, and we have markup language. So markup language basically makes data in a document accessible to a program. A lot of you are probably most familiar with HTML. Uh, some of you may be familiar with XML, and those of you who have experience writing academia document may be familiar with LaTeX. And we have query language. The most popular query language is SQL. It stands for Structured Query Language, and it is designed to retrieve specific records from a data set. And there's another one that is also becoming popular to front-end developers who may be using React is GraphQL. And here's another one, compiled programming language. So the characteristic of compiled programming language is that it converts the source code into machine code through compilation. And some of the example of languages would be C, C++, Rust. Now we're on to interpreted programming languages. I guess the difference between the compiled programming language and interpreted programming language is that you don't need to compile the program. It basically runs within the context of an interpreter, and the interpreter converts the code into machine code at runtime. So you can only run the program if an interpreter is installed. And oftentimes this interpreter can be part of the operating system, or it can be provided as a virtual machine. So for Java, we'll talk about a Java virtual machine, since Java is in the category of interpreted programming languages. Let's talk about the origins of Java in 1995, and it will probably make more sense if we talk about the context what was happening in 1995. So at that time, there was a need for a platform independent language. It's because most computer languages were designed to be compiled into machine code to target a specific type of CPU. We talked about this in compiled programming language. We said that they convert the source code into machine code for a specific CPU to be executed by. So for example, if you have C++ code, it can be compiled to any CPUs, but it requires C++ compiler targeted for that specific CPU. And with the advent of the internet and the web, portability became even more important. So it was just easier to there was a need for a platform independent language that is not dependent on the specific CPU, because it is difficult to target for a specific CPU. So Java, if you have experience working with C and C++, you might have noticed that Java is very similar. It's because Java purposefully inherited C's syntax and also inherited C++'s object model. Now, let's talk about Java Development Kit. It's called JDK. This is something you need to install in order for you to compile and run Java programs. If you look at this drawing, you will see that inside JDK, there is JRE, which contains JVM, class libraries, and compilers, debugger, Javadoc. A little bit of Java bytecode. So when you provide Java source code, the output of you get from compiling using Java compiler is not executable code. It is called bytecode, and this bytecode is a highly optimized set of instructions to be executed by the Java VM, Java Virtual Machine, which means you will have Java Virtual Machine installed on your operating system so that upon receiving this bytecode, your JVM can run this bytecode and create a machine code. Okay, here is a simple program. You can, this is probably the simplest program you can make. And here, all Java programs need to have a class. So we'll just name class to be first program. And then we need to have Java program to call main function, and this basically just prints this output string to your terminal. So a source file, this first program.java is called a compilation unit, and it can contain one or more class definitions, and class name is first program, And here's brief convention. You want to set your file name to be equal to the name of the main class name. I know we briefly touched on JDK, but JDK, Java Development Kit, has two programs. One is Java-C, which is the Java compiler, and it converts the source file to bytecode. Another is Java, which is a standard Java interpreter, and this interpreter runs Java program. So just to briefly go over the inner working, you probably don't ever have to do this because these days you just would use integrated development environment. But you can, after you install JDK, you can invoke Java-C program, which is Java compiler, and provide your Java source code as, and then what happens is it's gonna create a file called first program.class, and this first program.class will contain the bytecode version of the program. So if you run the program, in order to run this class, you would need to use the Java interpreter, which is Java. So you can just call Java first program, then it will give output of this first program. So let's talk about integrated development environment. There are multiple examples. There's NetBeans, Eclipse, IntelliJ IDEA, Visual Studio Code. As of now, IntelliJ IDEA and Visual Studio Code will be what we will be using, since those two are most popular at the moment. For IntelliJ IDEA, everything is already installed and integrated. But for Visual Studio Code, you may want to click this extension and then install Visual Studio Code extension pack for Java. This way, once you install this, you will see that there is this new UI element called Run and Debug, which will allow you to conveniently run or debug any programs, any Java programs. It's hard to talk about Java without object-oriented programming. So why object-oriented programming with Java? It's because all Java programs are to some extent object-oriented. We'll later learn how to put these concepts into practice. So this is probably the last concept we'll cover for this lecture. In the software industry, it's always been a battle to reduce complexity. So at first, assembly language was created because it was too complex to handle lots of ones and zeros. After the program became more complex, this paradigm of structured programming came, and we would have these primitive concepts such as functions, local variables, conditionals, loops, break, continue. So that program is organized around its code. I would say object-oriented programming is like the next step. So OOP basically take the best ideas of structured programming and combine them with several new concepts. And you can say that program is organized around data, and we'll talk more about object-oriented programming in the later lectures. So just to give a more detailed explanation on Java program, so we have this comment that describes or explains the operations of the program, and you can write comment in this format or in this format. And class is a basic unit of encapsulation, and main is where the app begins execution. And we're gonna talk about this access modifier more, but right now just know that public is access modifier, and this static, it allows main to be called before an object of the class has been created. And void, this is to mean that the main method doesn't return a value. And we have parameter, which is something that you pass to a method. And as a parameter, we have array of strings, and you usually give array of string called args because this will receive any command line arguments. Thank you.